be the pro.
Me?
Yeah.
Could you guys like compare and contrast like working for student publications versus like professional ones? Like was it intimidating or were there huge differences going from one that you're not getting paid for and then you're like all of a sudden professional?
I can tackle it. All right. On the one hand, I'm way less stressed because I'm not going to school on top of working on the paper. And my hours are a lot less, which is kind of nice. Most of the time, they're less. I don't know. I think a lot of it now, because we're doing community journalism, or I am, it's still very much the same. It's still very much, I do a little bit of everything. You know, if I have to, I can run out and take a photo. If I have to, I can go write a story. I can lay out the page if I'm really needed. You know, I still kind of do a little bit of everything. And that's kind of nice still. So, but it is nice to make actual money. That's, you watch your bank account grow. So that's a big difference.
Yeah, for me, it was a kind of a bigger change as far as the basics of writing and knowing social media and photography too. Hasn't changed. Like, that's never going to change. It's the same thing. But for me, like the company I work for, it's business casual, not, you know, not something that you would experience on a college campus. So I guess, yeah, I'm not sure exactly what your question is. I think that answers it.
For me, it was nice. I mean, I agree with Jamie that it was just so stressful going to 5 classes a week or whatever and spending 30 hours a week in the newsroom. Yeah, or more. I don't know.
It was 80 sometimes. Like,
yeah.
I would leave campus at midnight.
Oh, yeah.
And I'd roll back in for a 7 a.m. class the next morning. It was just insane. It was insane.
Yeah.
I worked more then than I do now.
Yeah.
Like, I clock out at 5.
And with
out, but that's not it.
and with journalism, I mean, I would say that like more when I was at the school paper, I had to be like a jack of all trades. You know, that we were just such a smaller operation that your roles weren't as clearly defined. That you had to do editing and this and. I don't know.
Well, that's when we didn't have reporters. Like they took that away from us.
Oh, yeah.
We were part of the transition to independent, and we didn't have anything. I mean, you had editors writing, you had editors taking photos. It used to be one of our photographers,
Yeah.
I was editor-in-chief, you know. So I think you really, in that period, we didn't have staff.
Right, so you did everything, and now I get to focus on and really hone in on like my writing skills, my developing sources, my, you know, and I know I want to be a reporter, and I can go and develop this niche, you know what I mean? Rather than, and it's great experience for sure to be able to take photos and be able to be that person that, you know, you can go to and be like, I've done this. But it's really nice to be able to work less, focus on what you love, and not work as much. Yeah. Again.
Yeah, for the stories that you write, how many do you work on like simultaneously, or do you focus on one until it's done? Like, what's the, I guess the process?
Okay. I work on a lot of stories at the same time, and a lot of like briefs, breaking news, projects, and so I just jump between. I'll have like 3 different stories open, and I'll start my day and put in phone calls for 5, and then this one doesn't work out. This one isn't as interesting as I thought it was, you know, and so when people aren't calling me back on one thing, then I go and I retweak this other thing, or I go and, I mean, there was a while that I'd be filing like 5 stories a day or something, and some are briefs, and some are, you know, things I have to get out right now, and then other things are things that aren't going to come in for a week. But yeah, I would say like 5, especially because we're like kind of a smaller community paper. Like, that's a pretty average number, and I have a pretty busy beat, so yeah.
Yeah, I think it's probably the same for any type of publication. Like I was saying earlier, I wrote 7 briefs today. That was just for one of our online websites. So that doesn't include the 5 large, you know, like 2,400 word features I'm working on for the magazines. So, I mean, you would never like only work on one thing and not work on others, because it's just time-wise impossible to do.
Yeah.
not that I write enough to really answer your question, but I can speak as an editor. The people who can't do like Lauren and bounce around from subjects are the ones that I hate the most. Because when you need that focus and you can only do one thing at a time and something breaks on your beat, it's horrible. It's horrible, especially as somebody who I feel like I'm trying to be more web driven. You know, I'm really the one that's like dragging my newsroom kicking and screaming, with the exception of some, into online, you know, and some people just don't get it. You know, they still have this mentality of, well, I'll do this story, and when I'm done with that, then I'll move on to this, and that's not going to fly. Like, you'll notice, we talk about social media. Our company has actually issued a directive that if you can't do social media, you won't get hired. So we all tweet, we all Facebook, we interact with our communities online, and that's really important. And I think being able to multitask is going to be just as important, because we are getting smaller. You know, we were talking about the L word earlier. Can I say it? Yeah. Layoffs, right? The more and more layoffs there are, the fewer people there are to do stuff. So Lauren is stuck with the public safety beat, and she has courts and cops. That might not have been an issue 5-10 years ago. You know, we're lucky right now we have 2 political reporters. When I first started at the pilot, we only had 1, and she covered both cities. She was insane, so she could do it, but it's really difficult to cover 2 city councils, you know. And be really good at it and be on top of it and keep track of, because it's not just the city council, right? You have city managers, you have public works directors, you've got all these various characters for 2 cities that you have to keep track of. So being able to multitask helps so greatly. I mean, you do a great job with it. You know, she'll turn something in the morning. Okay, well, I was on the phone and I got this thing, and okay, it's ready for online. Cool, thanks, Lauren. You know, I'm still trying to get my coffee in, you know, and she's already done something, which is great, you know. And then a few hours later, oh, I was at court and the superintendent got charged again and all that great stuff. So you've really tackled and mastered putting something online quickly, you know. And it's, you're very welcome. Let me take advantage of this poor book forum to tell you that. So, but it does matter. It does matter. Those skills that you have mean something now. So yes, you should be able to work on 5 stories at a time.
Or even like in a news environment, you need to just drop what you're doing. And yes, there was a train wreck, and I know you were really attached to that bird story, but no one cares about that right now. And no one's going to be reading that, and that might not even run tomorrow, or might be on like 8/5 or whatever. But you just have to just drop whatever you're doing and just tackle whatever. And even if it's not on your beat, it's big news, like you just have to pitch in and do whatever, put in the phone calls.
I guess, did you all know from the very beginning that you wanted to do print, or did you ever play with other aspects of journalism, like broadcast, PR? Like, how did you figure out that print is the best way that you wanted to do it?
Yes.
Like I said, I took a PR class. I ended up taking a couple because, and then I just did a little bit of freelancing in PR. I did some work for a nonprofit from one of my professors, my anthropology professors, and a few other people that just through networking, they knew I could write, and they're like, oh, if you could write, you could probably write me a press release. I'm like, sure. And then I'd start doing other PR-related stuff for them. So, but actually by doing that is what made me realize I don't want to do PR. So I'm glad that I did, but.
Yes and no, if that helps, or makes any sense. I started out actually at my hometown newspaper. I took a year off between college and high school. And so I really dug it. Like, I did not like the weekends because that meant I couldn't work. Stupid 19-year-olds, what do we know? And then I came to school here, and then I kind of got more and more into online stuff. And so I kind of like right now that we're in this transition because I can do both, which is really great. But there is something about print. You know, there's something about that paper in your hand and seeing the words on a piece of paper rather than on a screen, you know. But then again, I consume most of my news online. So I really do love both. It's just kind of, yeah.
I started working at the school paper, and like I knew I loved print. It was, I don't know, I read a lot, and I love like that routine of waking up and like reading the paper, at least on the weekends. I don't do it during the weekday for sure. But